Well, guys, we're gonna talk about Anita Sarkeesian today. Honestly, right? I don't know much about Gamergate itself, right? But obviously, I do know Anita Sarkeesian. Obviously, not 100% all of it. Like, I know what she does, right? I know how she acts. I know the recent interview course that she gave, whatever that was leaked, right? And obviously I do know about the legendary wedding themed birthday party because nobody wants to touch this woman with a 10-foot pole. Anyway, we're going in. This is Crash and Burn Gaming, the Anita Sarkeesian story by Critical Gamer. Isn't this just Critical Drinker, but gamer? Anyway, I think it's the same guy. Moving on. We're going in. Also,
When it comes to video,
please consider subscribing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right? That means a lot to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we can continue.
game Crash and Burns, they really
Right? And the thing is right? We have seen now for so much and so long video games, just like the video game world getting cooked, right? Then we also have Zoe Quinn. I remember another blonde chick with a nose ring that also did some massive damage.
don't get much more spectacular than this one. It would be no exaggeration to say that Anita Sarkeesian was one of the most influential, divisive, and widely hated figures in the whole industry. A name that's practically become the Lord Voldemort of the gaming world now, instantly conjuring up
Arguably one of the you would also definitely know this name, like arguably one of the most known names on the internet, right? The damage that she caused, the stupidity that she spread, right? And we still have people like her around, right? We still have was it Creative Shout? Collective Shout? I think Collective Shout, right? Which was which is a feminist group that essentially went up to payment processors, and then the payment processors started censoring shit, demanding censorship. It's crazy.
memories of bitter online culture wars, horrifyingly unlikable girl bosses, DEI struggle sessions, corporate mandated activism, and of course, absolutely shameless online grifting. A woman who once spoke in front of the United Nations, who had major studio.
The United Nations are evil. Moving on, and they're trying to slowly slither their way into anime as well.
Was bending over backwards to accommodate her, the entire legacy media apparatus trying to prop her up, and a river of money all flowing her way. Then, it all kind of fell apart when everyone collectively realised she was completely full of shit, knew practically nothing about the things she presumed to lecture industry pros and lifelong fans about, and her involvement in most major gaming projects was a kind of reverse Midas touch, turning gold into shit and profit into massive losses. So join me, your humble critical gamer, as we explore the crash and burn of Anita Sarkeesian. Anita was born in Toronto, Canada.
Is that crazy, right? Crash and burn, because she's still there, right? She is still there, right? The recent thing, she's still there.
Canada in 1983, the daughter of Iraqi Armenians who moved to the country back in the 70s. After finishing high school, she moved to California to study communications before moving on to York University.
She's always looked like the type to do this. Is that crazy to say? She always looked like the type to do this. She just does. It's crazy.
University, where she earned a master's degree in social and political thought in 2010. Already her preoccupation with gender and identity politics was pretty obvious with her final thesis, I'll Make a Man Out of You, Strong Women in Science Fiction and Fantasy Television. While finishing up her degree, she launched the website Feminist Frequency, dedicated to analysing media from a feminist perspective, where she did groundbreaking work like applying the Bechdel test, a widely debunked tool whose own creator admitted that it was done purely for laughs, to the Best Picture nominees in 2012, and breaking down the gender stereotyping in Lego bricks. Yup.
That's a new one. That's a new one. what gender stereotypes are there for what gender stereotypes are there for Lego? What is there? What is there? What? What does she? Whatever.
I'm being serious here. None of this made too much of an impact, but it did open up a new avenue for grifting. Sorry, media analysis. And that avenue was video games, a rapidly growing industry catering to a largely male audience and making absurd amounts of money in the process. And that clearly was something that needed correcting. In May 2012, Anita launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund a YouTube video series called Tropes vs. Women in Video Games, where she would break down various harmful stereotypes and depictions of women in gaming and how they could be fixed.
Over the course of this series, I will be offering critical analysis.
Okay. As usual, I'm basing this on assumptions, but these assumptions are usually correct. Attractive women in video games. Bad. Woman selling her coochie for $4.99 on OF. Good. Woman in corn. Good. I feel like we've got it twisted, right? We're trying to treat fictional characters better than real people. It's so interesting, right? Because she also thought in the crowd of she cannot differentiate between reality and fiction.
Analysis of many popular games and characters. But please keep in mind that it's both possible, and even necessary, to simultaneously enjoy a piece of media while also being critical of its more pernicious aspects.
Why exactly do you need funding to create the kind of videos that most content creators can make themselves for nothing? Don't know. Just don't worry about where the money went. Either way, the campaign was a massive hit and ended up raising over $150,000, and Tropes vs. Women rolled ahead with its first episode, Damsels in Distress, that came out the following year. Yeah, it was mostly superficial, highly biased, and easily debunked analysis of cherry-picked examples stripped of context, usually from games that had been made decades earlier, and tossed together with the kind of word salad that could only come from a political science degree, but what the fuck? It was exactly what the legacy news media were desperate for, a chance to shame and browbeat an industry that had mostly gone unchallenged until now. The New York Times even called it essential viewing for anyone interested in video games, and one of their journalists even tried to call out Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto about the damsels in distress trope in the Mario games. His response? I haven't given it a lot of deep thought over the years. Ha! Fucking based. Not everyone was riding the feminist frequency bandwagon though.
Why would you? It's literally just a plot device. Nothing else. It is literally just a plot device for Mario to go out. That's it. It's just a plot. That's all.
As it turned out, Anita and her series had blundered right into the middle of the biggest online culture war of all time, Gamergate. Now, there's already like 1 million videos explaining this topic in way more depth than I ever could. The short version is that people began to notice that certain indie game developers were getting a suspicious amount of positive coverage from mainstream gaming outlets, which led to accusations of corruption, bias, and even sexual favours in games journalism, and eventually exploded into an all-out backlash.
The smashing, I did not know. That's a new one. I didn't know that one. That's a new one. Oh god.
Against the creep of identity politics and feminism in gaming. And this was hardcore, man. Doxing, threats, harassment campaigns, mass flagging, review bombing, even criminal charges. It was all kicking off, and pretty soon the Tropes vs. Women series became another major target, along with its creator. Now, it goes without saying that I do not endorse this kind of shit in the slightest. Criticising a person's ideas is perfectly fine, but actually threatening harm on them in the real world is something very fucking different.
If we, my thing is, how about we keep the beef that we have online also just online, right? Anybody remembers the case where two people were beefing online and then the other one pulled up to the other guy in Vegas and just shot the other guy and his wife? We had that already. Stop.
different. Either way though, Anita was able to spin all of this to her advantage with sympathetic news coverage and even an appearance at the UN to speak about online harassment. Now, if you were a tinfoil hat enthusiast, you might even suggest that she courted this kind of online controversy and baited people into harassing her to prove her own point and portray herself as a brave victim standing up to the online mob so she could milk all that sweet sympathy and donation money. But you know, that's just crazy talk. Before you could say gassed up mid though, Anita and her trope series was the toast of the town in media circles, garnering millions of views, attending major speaking events, TED Talks, video game conferences, and basically anyone that would have her. Suddenly confronted by this tidal wave of media scrutiny and profit-threatening criticism, the gaming industry reacted exactly like you'd expect. They folded like a house of cards, and before you knew it, Anita was being touted as the new saviour of gaming, the bringer of light and truth who was going to drag the industry away from sweaty teenage boys and horny middle-aged men and into a more enlightened era of diversity and inclusion.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
I mean, sadly, the harsh reality is that she kind of did. She kind of did, right? One could argue that the reason gaming is now the way it is might be because of her. You know?
However, all was not well. The Tropes vs. Women series that had started with such fanfare in 2013 was rapidly losing momentum. Views dropped off sharply from 2015 onwards and never really recovered, and the pace of uploads slowed down drastically, with only 2 episodes getting released in 2017 before the whole thing ground to a halt. Wow, that was $150,000 well spent, wasn't it? Anita's claim of being a lifelong gamer took a bit of a hit when footage emerged of her running a workshop back in 2010, giving a very different story.
It's a soundtrack of one song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
Ow. That is how you tank your reputation. That is how one tanks their reputation. Just that she's not even the she's not a mentally ill gamer feminist. She's just a mentally ill feminist.
You serious?
It also turns out that mainstream media support is a fickle mistress, and if you don't have an actual fan base there to lift you up, pretty soon you're gonna disappear into obscurity. And well, that's exactly what happens. A VidCon panel that she hosted in 2017 turned into a complete disaster when almost nobody showed up except her own detractors, and she spent most of the event raging against them and dodging their questions. By 2019, desperate for money and relevance, she tried to publicly blackmail CD Projekt Red into a consultancy gig on their upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077, saying, "Hey CD Projekt Red, I'm always available for consulting cause it sure sounds like you might need it before the whole of the internet drags you for what sounds like some potentially sexist representations, which we all know you've struggled with in the past."
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It was the social media equivalent of a protection racket. "Hey buddy, nice game you got there, beer."
Is that kind of crazy, right? She's essentially just like, oh, be careful, don't sexualize as any woman. Otherwise there might be consequences. That's literally what it sounds like.
A real shame if something was to happen to it, know what I mean? Needless to say, it didn't work. CD Projekt Red and any other developers still interested in turning a profit avoided her like the plague, and by the early 2020s, the culture had shifted, Gamergate and most of its major players had faded from relevance, and feminist frequency was fading with it. See, it turns out that watching a bunch of bored, frumpy, middle-aged spinsters prattling on about media they barely
Is the middle one even a woman? That looks like a dude.
understand wasn't a big hit with audiences. Views plummeted, interest waned, and in 2023, Anita announced that she was shutting down feminist frequency for goods. The official excuse was burnout and exhaustion. The real reason? Nobody was fucking watching it. So where exactly is she now? Well, in 20...
So the real reason is money. The real reason is money. Money. There was no money coming in. Obviously.
2023, she made headlines when she celebrated her 40th birthday by holding a wedding ceremony where she married herself.
Really?
That's because no man wants to touch this woman with a 10-foot pole. Why would you? get constantly have to hear how everything needs to be more diverse and right, how you're an oppressor and how you're evil because you're a man. Yeah, nah, I'm good. That would be good.
Yes, yes.
Oh my god, that might be the saddest thing I have ever heard. Honestly, I can't think of a better metaphor for modern day feminism than a single, childless, middle-aged woman marrying herself. From a career standpoint, she still kind of exists as this shadowy figure on the fringes of the games industry, limping along with the occasional consulting gig on small-time indie projects, but her days as an industry-leading cultural icon are long gone. Looking back on it now, she was really just someone who happened to be in the right place at the right time, able to weaponize controversy and ride the cultural wave that came with it for a few years.
Real. That's true though, right? Again, recent things have been dropping, right? Leaks. But aside from that, yeah, true. She was really just there at the right moment at the right time. Made her thing. Especially when feminism became more and more mainstream that way, right? The movement. Not just feminism, the movement, right? The modern audience movement, right? That's what that, and I'm definitely certain she was a major contributor in the way things are right now.
A person with many supporters but few fans who ultimately outlived her own relevance. That being said, the influence that she had on video games is arguably still being felt to this day. Like it or not, Anita Sarkeesian made her mark on the games industry, and it was not a pretty one.
Indeed, right? That is just true. That's just the reality.
Anyway, that's all I've got.
That's all. All right. So to summarize, this woman is just a lonely, bitter, childless, middle-aged woman. That's all that is. Who did it? Arguably some real strong damage to gaming. Right? She did some actual damage to gaming, right? We can still feel it, right? Concord, the uglification of women in video games. The pussification of male main characters. Regardless, yeah, right. You get the idea. You get the idea. Yeah, I think the wedding thing is the one thing that's still stuck with me till this day because it was so pathetic. That it just means that, like, right, you're just so unwanted that the only person that would ever marry you is yourself, and that's it. It's just depressing. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys, and don't end up like Anita Sarkeesian. Be better, gentlemen. Be better.